This might be the most important video that you watch about fantasy hockey this upcoming season, and the reason for this is because we are talking about sleepers. These are players that are getting slept on in drafts. They are going far too late, so if you target these players, they could potentially help you win a fantasy hockey championship. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. The first player that is a sleeper in drafts is Filip Forsberg of the Nashville Predators. It seems like people sleep on this guy every year. I would say on Fantrax and Drafters Fantasy Sports that he's not really a sleeper, but on Yahoo he absolutely is. 140.1, that is far too late. This guy put up 42 goals in 69 games 2 years ago. Obviously he was due for some regression, and that regression came, but he's still an extremely solid player, putting up 42 points in 50 games last season. The only reason Forsberg is lower on this list is because he's very injury prone. He hasn't played a full year since the 2016-2017 season, so do keep that in mind. Overall, guys, in your Yahoo drafts, definitely take a look at Filip Forsberg in your later rounds. The next sleeper on this list is Kirill Marchenko of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Last year as a rookie, he had 21 goals in 59 games on a terrible Blue Jackets team, which put him on pace for 29 goals in a full season. The Blue Jackets should be better this year with guys like Laine and Werenski healthy, and also a bunch of young players that could take a step forward for this upcoming season. He's only 23 years old, and I think getting that first year out of the way was big for Marchenko. Going into his second season, there is a potential for him to put up 35 goals. Next up is Pavel Zacha of the Boston Bruins, and this one's pretty obvious. Krejci and Bergeron are no longer with the team, leaving Zacha to be the first line center on the Bruins. Barring any trades, Zacha is going to have a lot of value playing on the first line with David Pastrnak, and he's also going to be on that first line power play. If we're looking at his stat totals last year, he had 21 goals and a total of 57 points in 82 games, and he did this not having a lot of power play time. He was on that second unit, so going to the first unit and the first line, you should see a bump in his production, and there's a chance that he could put up 65 plus points this year. Next up is Jakub Vrana of the St. Louis Blues, getting moved from the Red Wings to the Blues last season. In those 25 games that he played with the Blues, he put up 11 goals. That's an 82 game pace of 36 goals in a full season. We've known that Vrana is an elite goal scorer in the NHL. If we're looking at 5v5 goals per 60, he's a top 5 player in that stat among some elite company. Obviously being on pace for 36 goals is impressive in itself, but he did this despite only averaging 14 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time per game. If he can play a full season and end up on that first power play unit, getting top 6 minutes, the upside is to the moon. Next up is Barrett Hayton of the Arizona Coyotes, and I just posted a tweet about this guy yesterday. In his first 33 games last season, Hayton only had 1 goal and a total of 5 points. However, looking at his last 49 games, he put up 18 goals and 38 points. That's an 82 game pace of 30 goals and 63 points if we're looking at his last 49 games. That first line of Schmaltz, Keller, and Hayton was on absolute fire last year. He's only 23 years old, and based off this production from the second half of the season, I'm expecting him to put up 60 plus points. Next up is Gabe Vilardi of the Winnipeg Jets. He had 23 goals in 63 games last year on the Kings, which put him on pace for 29 goals in a full season. He's only 24 years old, and now he's on the Jets, where he is going to get top 6 minutes, and he will be on that first line power play as well, so I'm expecting him to put up a lot of goals this season. He's barely getting drafted on Yahoo right now, so if you're in a league with 10 teams or more, this guy needs to be rostered, and you should target him in your later rounds. Next up, we have Artturi Lehkonen of the Colorado Avalanche, and this guy is a massive sleeper. 170.5 ADP on Yahoo right now, and he is a lock on the first line power play. He had 51 points in 64 games last year, which put him on pace for 26 goals and 65 points in a full season. It's hard to find guys going this late in drafts that put up those type of points. At this ADP right now, he is a massive value, so you better draft him. Next up, we have Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers. He broke out last season, putting up 27 goals in 77 games. He's on the first line and first line power play on the Flyers, and he's going very late on Yahoo right now, 164.6. Another reason he has a ton of value is because he puts up a lot of shots, hits, and blocks. If your league values those peripherals heavily, he will be a massive steal in your drafts, so make sure you take a look at Tippett. He's in the prime of his career, and hopefully the Flyers can improve, not only on the power play, but as an offense overall. That could happen with those key guys coming back like Cam Atkinson and Sean Couturier, so look out for Owen Tippett in your drafts. The next sleeper is Eriksson Ek of the Minnesota Wild. This guy's going very late in Yahoo drafts right now, and if you're looking at fantasy points per game according to Yahoo default scoring, he had more points than Svechnikov, Kyrou, Necas, Kreider, Kuzmenko, DeBrincat, Gaudreau. The list goes on. He had 23 goals and 61 points in 78 games last year, and he has great peripherals. He takes a lot of shots, blocks, and hits. He's on the first line power play, a power play that he put up 23 points on. He's also on the second line with emerging superstar Matt Boldy, so if Boldy takes another step forward, expect Eriksson Ek to rack up a lot of points. Target Eriksson Ek in your drafts. The next sleeper on this list is a defenseman that I've been very high on. That player is Durzi of the Arizona Coyotes. Last year, he was on the Kings and he played pretty good. He had a total of 9 goals and 38 points in 72 games, and he did this despite being on the second unit. Bill Armstrong, the GM, has already confirmed that he's going to be running the first unit, so you do not have to worry about some other guys on the Coyotes being on that unit. Durzi is that guy, and if we're expecting Keller, Schmaltz, and Hayton to have a big season, then Durzi is likely going to rack up a ton of points as well. So do yourself a favor and target Durzi in your later rounds. For a defenseman, a position that's very scarce, Durzi could be a massive value. Next up, we have Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets. I wouldn't necessarily call him a sleeper on certain platforms, but his Yahoo ADP is egregious, 159.1. He is going far too late, and let me tell you why. Obviously, Ehlers has not been able to stay healthy, but if you're looking at the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's been a guy that's been on pace for over 30 goals and 70 plus points, and also 250 plus shots in every single one of those seasons. So I also should mention that last year his shooting percentage was 9.1% compared to a career rate of 11.8. He also had a sports hernia surgery in the middle of the season, so it probably was hard to bounce back. I was a little bit concerned about his usage on the Jets. Bonus was playing him on the third line and on the second unit some nights. Hopefully that changes, so that is one cause for concern, but despite being in the doghouse and averaging only 15 minutes of ice time per game, he still put up 38 points in 45 games, so a fully healthy Ehlers playing a full season, he has a lot of value. Next up, we have Jake Debrusk of the Boston Bruins, and finally the Bruins actually gave him an opportunity last season, and he capitalized on it. He had 27 goals in 64 games, which put him on pace for 34 goals in a full season. He also puts up a good amount of shots, blocks, and hits if your league values those, so I do like Debrusk as a sleeper. Yahoo ADP of 153 is far too low. If you're looking at Yahoo default scoring, Debrusk had more fantasy points per game than a ton of players that are going way ahead of him. Let me list some names off. Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Claude Giroux. The list goes on, guys. If he's getting more fantasy points per game than those type of players, and you're getting him at 153 ADP, you need to draft him there. I know Brock Nelson is about to be 32 on an average Islanders team with a very bad power play, but looking at the last 2 seasons, if you drafted Brock Nelson, you got a ton of value. He had 36 goals in 82 games last year, and the year prior, he had 37 goals in 72 games. This guy's been amazing, and you're getting him late once again. Brock Nelson is going 100 picks later than Sebastian Aho, and yet average more fantasy points per game than him. It's simple as that, guys. Brock Nelson is a massive sleeper, and I think he has a lot of value at his ADP. One of my favorite defenseman sleepers right now is Mike Matheson of the Montreal Canadiens. On Drafters Fantasy Sports, I think I've drafted him on half of my teams. You can see right now in Drafters Fantasy Sports, he's going 120.5. If you want to take him there, you can sign up using promo code FIREDUP, deposit in a minimum of $20. They will match your deposit 100% up to $100. Use that referral code in the link and that promo code when you go to deposit, and you could draft guys like Mike Matheson and potentially win thousands of dollars in prizes. If you're looking at average fantasy points per game, according to Yahoo Scoring, you're not going to believe this, guys. Mike Matheson averaged more fantasy points per game than Hampus Lindholm, Victor Hedman, Vince Dunn, Darnell Nurse, Noah Dobson, Chris Letang, Thomas Chabot, Rasmus Anderson, Justin Falk, Drew Doughty, and Aaron Ekblad. And yet he goes later than every single one of these players. He's going to be on that first unit with Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Kirby Dach. I think that power play will improve. So if this guy can play a full 82-game season, he has so much value, and you're basically getting him for free on all platforms. Don't leave your draft without taking Mike Matheson in the later rounds, and I promise you, you're not going to regret it. Next up is Shea Theodore, another defensive sleeper, and I've been taking this guy a lot in my Drafters Fantasy Sports best ball drafts, and I'm probably going to take him a lot in my upcoming redraft leagues because you can see right here, his ADP on Yahoo is much later than his ADP on Drafters and Fantrax. Yahoo ADP is a little bit messed up, but hey, if you can get Theodore this late, he is going to have so much value. This is a guy in the last 4 seasons who has been a consistent 10+ goal scorer and 50 to 60 point player. On Yahoo right now, you have a guy like Brady Shea going ahead of Shea Theodore, which makes absolutely no sense. No way Theodore should be going this late. He is a big sleeper, and I suggest you target him in your drafts. Next up, we have Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers, and look at his ADP right now on Drafters Fantasy Sports, 136. I've been taking this guy in my last round every single draft I do. He averaged 4 minutes of power play time a game last year on this Panthers offense, which was 12th in the league and 9th among forwards. So this guy has a potential to put up a ton of points, and I'm expecting him to put up 30 goals because he's been a consistent 30-plus goal scorer in the NHL. He's also due for a potential bounce back because his shooting percentage last season was the lowest since the 2018-2019 year on the Sabres. He gets plenty of power play points, plenty of opportunity, and I think he's going far too late on most platforms. Next up is Valeri Nichushkin of the Colorado Avalanche. This guy was incredible last year. He was on pace for 72 points in a full season. He's a lock to be on that first power play unit beside Kel McCarr, beside Mikko Rantanen, beside Nathan MacKinnon. According to Yahoo default scoring, Nichushkin averaged more fantasy points per game than Jake Gensel, Kevin Fiala, Artemi Panarin, JT Miller, Tyler Toffoli, Brad Marchand, Adrian Kempe, Kyle Connor, and Clayton Keller. Panarin's ADP is 35.3. Marchand's ADP is 38.5. Kyle Connor's ADP is 44. Where does Nichushkin go on Yahoo right now? 142. You need to draft Nichushkin. I know he hasn't played a full season in the last couple of years, but if he is healthy, he is going to have so much value from his ADP. Even if he misses like 10 to 20 games, getting in this late is going to help your fantasy team and propel you to a potential fantasy championship. This next player might be my favorite sleeper in all of fantasy hockey, and that player is Nick Schmaltz of the Arizona Coyotes. His Yahoo ADP right now is 175.9. And let's talk about his point totals. Last year, he had 22 goals and a total of 58 points in 63 games, which put him on pace for 28 goals and a total of 75 points in a full season. How are you going to get a guy that can put up 75 points this late in drafts? I can't wrap my head around it. He has a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and you get him for free in drafts. So you need to take Schmaltz in your upcoming fantasy hockey drafts. At number 3, we have Patrik Laine of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And this guy is absolutely a sleeper, not so much on Fantrax, but on Drafters Fantasy Sports and also Yahoo. He's going far too late in my opinion. Yahoo is just egregious, 157.5. That makes no sense. We've seen Laine put up 40 plus goals in a full season. He's a consistent 30 goal scorer. Last season, he was great too. If you're looking at his point totals, he had 22 goals and a total of 52 points in 55 games. He puts up a ton of shots as well, and he's 25 years old in the prime of his career. If Laine can play a full 82 game season, and you draft him on Yahoo around 157.5 ADP, you are getting so much value. So take Laine in your upcoming drafts. He has so much upside from his ADP, and that's why he's a top 3 sleeper on this list. Pavel Buchnevich has been an over point per game player in the last 2 seasons, and it's like no one cares. He is going as a 146 player off the board on Yahoo, and that is far too low. As you guys can see right here, I've drafted a lot of Pavel Buchnevich on Drafters Fantasy Sports. He is a great value on that platform. If he plays a full season based off the last 2 seasons that we've seen, he could put up 80 to 90 points. So this is a guy that you need to target if you're getting in this late in drafts. Buchnevich should be in the top 100 picks, so draft him as much as you can before the public catches on. The number 1 biggest sleeper for this upcoming fantasy hockey season is none other than Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. This defenseman is going far too late in drafts. He's not the biggest sleeper if we're talking about different platforms like Fantrax and Drafters, but on Yahoo it's criminal, 157.9. People forget how good this guy was just because he missed most of last season, but if we're looking at his previous seasons, he had 20 goals in the 2019-2020 year in 63 games. This put him on pace for 26 goals in a full season, guys. As a defenseman, that is absolutely elite. He's still a young player. He's 26 years old, and this Blue Jackets team should get better. If he can play a full 82 game season, I expect him to put up 15 plus goals and 60 plus points. He also takes a ton of shots. He's in the upper echelon of defensemen of that category. So if your league value shots heavily like Yahoo default does, you need to target Werenski. Draft Werenski before the public catches on. He is going to be a massive sleeper, especially on Yahoo. Before you guys go, I want to let you know I will be live streaming tonight at 7 p.m. doing another Drafters NHL Best Ball draft. You can draft alongside with me on stream if you use that promo code when signing up and depositing a minimum of $20. So do yourself a favor, click the link in the description or the pinned comments below, or download the app on iOS or Android and draft with me tonight at 7 p.m. I'll see you guys there.